Mockingbird and Liarbird by Raya Wakayama on AO3. Chapter 4. Hitoshi glared ahead as Shota drives them away from his new dentist. His jaw aches, something fierce after almost an hour in that torture chair. Hurting? Shota asks mildly, keeping his eyes on his road as he drives. I think that Hyogenis was trying to prove a point with those torture implementations. Hitoshi murmurs. Would that point, perhaps, be to brush and floss more? Shota asks without any inflection, though Hitoshi is sure that man is laughing at him in his pain. Yeah, it's gang up on Hitoshi Day, he murmured and winces at his gums throbbing again. Your friends still coming over? Shota asks as they turned onto the street their apartment is on. Yeah, I'm gonna go meet him, in a bit, outside from school and walk him here, Hitoshi explains. You know, I could just pick him up, Shota offers with a glance and an arched eyebrow. No, I need to brace myself for the implosion to come, Hitoshi says with a laugh. You keep saying that. If you could see his bedroom, you would understand, Hitoshi says as they pulled into the parking garage. Socha flashes ID before being let in, and they find their parking spot. I'll try to keep Hisashi from going too far, Shota offers as they get out, and Hitoshi snorts. I look forward to seeing you try, but thanks for the offer, Hitoshi says with a nod as they get into the elevator to go up. It's been a few months now since he'd taken in by Hisashi and Shota, and he's starting to believe a bit that they're not going to just chuck him out at the drop of a hat. But he's still a little cautious around them. He likes them, a lot, and he'd hate to become attached only for it to blow up in his face later. As they open the door, they hear music playing from the kitchen, and Hisashi humming along to it. We're back, Shota calls out. Hey, just finishing some dishes, Hisashi calls out. Is he still coming? Hisashi asks, poking his head out from the kitchen as they take their shoes off. Yes, he's still coming. I'm gonna head out in a bit to grab him, Hitoshi says with a huff. Okay, I made some snacks for the two of you if you get hungry. How was the dentist? Hisashi asks. I don't want to talk about it, Hitoshi murmurs darkly, and Hisashi sends Shota a look. Cavity, he explains with a shrug. We'll schedule it for later. You need to brush more and floss more, Hisashi reminds Hitoshi. Thank you. The lady with the torture implements already made her case, Hitoshi calls out as he heads for the bathroom to grab some pain meds and ignores the laugh from Hisashi. 20 minutes later, Hitoshi swings through the kitchen to grab a bottle of water before heading out to grab Izuku, who he'd left at school to leave early for his appointment, and stares at the snacks Hisashi made. How much do you plan on us eating? He asks, incredulously. Well, you can never be too sure, and we can always snack on the leftovers, Hisashi says with a shiny grin. Oh Lord, you're as bad as Midoriya's mom, Hitoshi groans. That woman has the right sense, and I plan on getting her chic recipe one way or another, Hisashi says with a pointed look as Hitoshi emerges with his water bottle. Well, you can ask Midoriya to pass on the message to his mom. I'm sure she'll love to swap recipes, Hitoshi says, aiming to pull on his sneakers. I'll be back, he calls out and steps out before they could say anything else. Hitoshi takes the elevator down to the lobby and waves to the security guard before stepping out and falling into a light jog. School let out a few minutes ago, and he's sure Midoriya is waiting for him. He's panting a bit and slightly winded by the time he reaches the front of the school and sees Midoriya fidgeting and waiting beside the front gate, checking his phone as he waits. Hey, Hitoshi calls. Midoriya jumps in surprise before looking his way with a grin. Hitoshi stares in surprise at the stark white bandage peeking from underneath Midoriya's jacket collar that wasn't there when Hitoshi left him a few hours ago. What happened? He demanded, walking over to take a closer look. As he gets nearer, he smells the faint scent of burnt fabric and sees a patch of his jacket is singed. Ah, it's nothing, Midoriya says with a wave of his hands nervously. Midoriya, I was gone 2 hours. How did you get hurt in 2 hours that would require band-aids? Hitoshi demanded. Apparently I was existing too loudly in Kachan's space and he got mad, Midoriya says with a shrug. It's fine. I already cleaned it and patched it up. It's just a small burn. I don't think he meant for it to be that bad, he says quickly. That fucking asshole again? He grumbles. This isn't the first time he's seen Bakugo push around Midoriya and hurt him, but it is the first time he's seen evidence from what was obviously him using his quirk. You should tell someone, Hitoshi says. No, it's fine, Midoriya says quickly. Besides, Kachan wants to be a hero, and I know he could be a good one. A mark on his record would look bad. He murmurs, looking down at his hands. A hero doesn't hurt people, Hitoshi says, venomously with a frown. He's nothing but a bully, and you defending him won't help him be a hero. It's just reinforcing him being a bully. Hitoshi adds. I know, Midoriya admits with a shrug. But whose words will they take? Mine or his? He asks, and Hitoshi stills at the reminder that Bakugo is the golden boy of the school. I'm fine. This honestly isn't even the worst he's done. That doesn't make it right. Or better. Hitoshi murmurs, and Midoriya shrugs, but smiles anyway. Well, come on, Hitoshi says, letting it go for now. Hitoshi motions for Midoriya to follow, and he does with a bounce and a step, eager to meet Hitoshi's foster parents. When they get to the apartment building, he whistles. Wow, you live here? He asks. Yep. Hitoshi nods and gets him inside the lobby. They stop to get him signed in at the ground post and then take the elevator up. There's a lot of security here, Midoriya comments. I know, Hitoshi says, not falling for the bait. This would be a surprise, and he was going to watch his friend implode. He's kind of been looking forward to this for a while. He's a bit of an asshole, but who isn't? Hitoshi unlocks the door and ushers him inside. We're here. He calls out and shuts the door. There's already a pair of guest slippers set aside. Shota leans back from where he's mostly grading papers. Welcome back. Nice to meet you. Aizawa Shota. He adds with a nod to Midoriya. Hello, he stammers out with a slight bow. Thank you for inviting me into your home, Aizawa-san, he adds. I'm coming. Don't start without me. Hisashi calls out, and Hitoshi watches rapidly as Midoriya registers the voice and then freezes, eyes going a bit wide and flickering his eyes to Hitoshi, who tries to keep his expression blank. Hisashi comes into the room from the hall and grins brightly. Hello, you must be Midoriya Izuku, Hitoshi's friend. It's very nice to meet you. I'm Yamada Hisashi. Hisashi greets. Hitoshi silently counts backwards from 5 before Izuku finally unfreezes from shock and whips around to glare at Hitoshi. Why didn't you tell me your foster dad was Present Mike? He hisses, voice shaking with a bit of anxiety. Surprise, Hitoshi says with a grin, and Izuku lets out a faint whine as he tries to process that he is meeting one of his favorite heroes in person. Everything okay? Hisashi asks softly. Hang on, he's imploding, Hitoshi says with a grin. Finally, Midoriya's eye goes wide as he realizes he hasn't actually responded to Hisashi's word. Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. Hi, it's nice to meet you. Yes, I'm Midoriya Izuku. Midoriya gets out, blowing it quickly as a flush rises up his neck and cheeks. It's okay, little listener, Hisashi says with a grin and a wave of his hand. I'm glad Hitoshi wanted to bring his friend over. Come on in. Thank you. Midoriya stammers out, and Hitoshi laughs before cursing as a sharp heel impacts his shin. Totally worth it. Hitoshi leads them into the living area where Shota is indeed grading what looks like essays. Red pen set aside for the moment. Sorry about just now. You're one of my favorite heroes. Midoriya admits. It's a bit of a shock. He adds with a look at Hitoshi. No problem, little listener. Always glad to meet a fan. And I'm sure Hitoshi meant for it to be a shock, judging by that smirk, Hisashi says, with a look, and Hitoshi shrugs. I'm surprised you recognized me out of costume, though. Most people don't, Hisashi says with an intrigued look. What? Oh, no, I recognized your voice. Midoriya explains with a smile. I have a good memory for voices, and I listen to your radio show all the time. Midoriya exclaims. I thought you called it electric memory? Hitoshi pipes up, knowing Midoriya is trying to play down his quirk. Electric? Shota asks in surprise. Just with sounds, Midoriya explains quickly. It's a part of my quirk. He adds. Oh, yes, Hitoshi did say you have a sound-based quirk too, Hisashi says with a bright smile and looks at Shota. Looks like you're the odd man out, Sho. He jokes, and Shota shrugs. If you don't mind me asking, what is your quirk? I'm always excited to meet fellow sound quirks. Midoriya flushes and nods. It's called voice box, he says quietly, fidgeting with his fingers. I was born mute, so I actually speak through my quirk, thus the name, Midoriya exclaims. I can copy voices and sounds and use them to speak. Hisashi and Shota are silent for a moment before Hisashi finally speaks. Thank you for sharing that with us. I'm sure it's not easy to admit that around new people, he says, and Midoriya flushes even redder. I'll share a secret with you, Hisashi says with a wink, and reaches for his ear to pull off his hearing aids. I'm partly deaf. It happens when I was young, really, because of my quirk. Most people don't know about it, though. He slips the aid back in. Oh, Midoriya says with wide eyes, and Hitoshi can already see his brain going to town. That would make sense. Your quirk adapted your vocal cords so they're not hurt by your quirk, but not your ears. Your voice has a bit of a hum to it, too, but it's different. He starts to murmur. Hisashi blinks and looks to Hitoshi. He likes to analyze quirks. Hitoshi explains. What was that about a hum? Shota asks, breaking through Midoriya's murmurs. What? He asks before flushing as he realizes he wasn't paying attention. You said something about a hum, Shota says, patiently. Yes. Well, Hitoshi has it too. It's part of his quirk since it requires his voice. I think it's some sort of low frequency hum he admits to make the connection with people he's trying to brainwash. Yamada-san has it too, but it sounds different. Maybe a different frequency? I'm not sure. It fluctuates too, but I guess since his quirk requires a border range to work, so would the hum. Midoriya explains. I wonder if my quirk has a hum or if it doesn't, because it's technically an emitter quirk and not a true voice quirk. Midoriya says with a frown. Welcome to my world, Hitoshi says with a grin, and Hisashi laughs. You've got quite the mind on you, little listener. I take it your quirk allows you to hear a broader range of frequencies, too? Hisashi asks. Midoriya nods. Oh, yes, though I haven't been able to test how high or low I can hear. I tried to recreate Hisashi's hum a few times, but I think since it is quirk-based sound, it's not naturally made. I can't. Midoriya adds. Or at least that's my running theory currently. He's been helping me figure out my quirk a bit, Hitoshi admits with a shrug. Though apparently his quirk doesn't count as his voice, so I can't actually brainwash him. He adds with a bit of a pout. Midoriya nods eagerly in his element. We've tried a few times. I could feel it trying to connect, but just nothing. Without the second trigger, he explains. So you can copy any sound? Shota asks, sounding intrigued. I could copy any sound, even if I've only heard it once, Midoriya says, using Shota's voice, and the man blinks in surprise, before a bit of a smirk crosses his face. But I try not to use people's voices unless I have their permission. My voice, as far as I know, doesn't actually exist. It's a bunch of voices I liked and meshed together to create a new one, so I could have my own voice, without using someone else's. Midoriya exclaims, meshing his fingers together in demonstration. Clever thinking, Shota says with a nod of approval, and Midoriya smiles a bit at the praise. He jumps in surprise as Duchess appears and jumps on his lap, demanding attention. Oh, hi, kitty cat, Midoriya says with a smile, petting the feline. Duchess meows at him, and Midoriya mimics her meow back, and the cat's ears perk up a bit. All right, we'll let you two to get whatever it was you were planning to do. I'll bring the snacks out later, Hisashi announces, and Hitoshi nods, standing and dragging Midoriya off the couch. The boy, still holding Duchess, as she butts her head against his face. Okay, Hitoshi says, and Midoriya waves farewell before Hitoshi drags him into his room to work on their plans for training, alongside some homework. Midoriya sits down heavily onto Hitoshi's bed and then shoves his face into Duchess' side to whine softly. You okay? Hitoshi asks quietly. I just talked about my quirks with one of my favorite heroes, Midoriya says, after pulling his face away from Duchess' side, the cat completely unaffected. You did. Hitoshi agrees. I'm gonna have to get you back for this surprise. I about had a heart attack when I heard his voice, Midoriya murmurs, petting Duchess like the only thing keeping him from flying apart at the seams. I'm sure you will. Now, let's get this figure out, Hitoshi says, and Midoriya sighs but nods. He pauses, and then blinks. I just got why you said you'd ask your foster parents about training, he admits. Yeah, try being fostered by them. I'll tell you later how that came about, Hitoshi offers, and Midoriya nods eagerly. Then he frowns. Wait, you said both of them know about training. Does that mean Aizawa-san is a hero too? Hitoshi just grins at him. Shinzo-kun, please, no more surprises. I don't think I could take any more, Midoriya whines. All right, he is. Though I won't say who. You get to figure that out, Hitoshi says with a laugh, as Midoriya sends him a look of despair. He finally figures out on his way to head home when he notices a scarf and goggles hanging in the foyer. Needless to say, he has a second implosion as well, and Hitoshi enjoys every moment of it. Hitoshi feels his stomach knot up as he heads out of his room a week later. He and Izuku, the other boy saying it was okay to call him by his given name, had finally ironed out their plans for getting into UA. But now he needs to do his side of the plan, asking Shota and Hisashi for help in training. Realistically, he knows both of them would be happy to help him and Izuku. Maybe give a few tips on different ways they could start exercising and training. They've still got a few years before the entrance exam, so they have time. But part of him that's still back in the other homes barks at the idea of trusting them with his dreams. He never asked any of his previous placements for any kind of help because he knew they would never give it, or they'll get angry at him for taking up their time. Old habits die hard, as they say, and Hitoshi has put it off as long as he could. But he made a promise, and he won't disappoint his friend. So gathering all his courage, Hitoshi heads to the living room where Shota is grading. It's Friday, so Hisashi is at the radio station for a show. And it's just the two of them tonight. Shota not going on patrol on Fridays, so there's always at least one of them home at night with him. Hitoshi sits on the couch and fidgets with the drawstrings of his hoodie before he finally sucks in a breath and say, Shota? Shota hums at him as he marks a few spots on the paper before scribbling a grade on it and shifting it aside to the next paper. Would you be able to help me and Izuku with training stuff? Hitoshi finally asked, not looking up from his lap, though he hears the man set his pen down and shift back a bit to look at Hitoshi. Training as in? He asks, though he doesn't sound angry or annoyed, just interested. Well, Izuku and I, we want to go to UA and try to get into the Horrocks course, but we don't really know how to train to get ready for it, and well, I was wondering if you could give us some tips. He finally gets out, still not looking up. You want to be heroes? Shota asks. Hitoshi nods. Heroics isn't something you could just get into casually like a club. It takes a lot of hard work, dedication, and a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. It's a serious commitment. He states frankly. We know that, Hitoshi says, head jerking up to look at Shoto, who is watching him with an unreadable expression. We want to help people like us, who get ignored or brushed aside because they'd rather believe others' words than ours, and who get treated like villains before anyone gives them a chance to prove them otherwise. We want to show that our quirks do not mean villain, Hitoshi says, in a rush, heart beating heavily in his ears as he waits for Shota to say something. For a moment, silence hangs between them, as Shota seems to stare right through him. Then the man smiles. A barely there smile, but it's still there. Very well. I'm sure Hisashi and I could help you figure out exercise plans. But Midoriya will need to get his mother's permission. I don't want her getting mad at me because she wasn't in the loop. He says pointedly. Yes, of course, Hitoshi says excitedly, jumping up with a grin. I'll let him know. He starts to turn and Shota calls out. And Hitoshi? Hitoshi pauses, looking back at him to see the smile is still there. I think you and Midoriya will make excellent heroes. Once we train you up, that is. His smile turns wicked, and Hitoshi flushes at the praise, and then gulps, because he just knows it's gonna be a lot of hard work. Thanks. Hitoshi gets out before rushing off to his room to grab his phone so he could text Izuku about the good news. Izuku grins as he gets the confirmation text from Hitoshi, his friend informing him of Shota's requirements. Sending a quick string of excited words to his friend, Izuku jumps up. His mom is in the other room working on some work she brought home from the firm where she works as a paralegal. When he comes out of his room, he sees her at the table, some of her books opened around her and a few files spread across the table. He sees her water glass is empty and grabs it to refill it for her. Oh, thank you, sweetheart, Inko says with a distracted smile as she pages through the book to look something up. Izuku comes back and sets the glass of cold water down before he grabs a seat across from her and sits down. Mom? Izuku says quietly, and Inko looks up at the tone in his voice. Can I ask you something? He asks. Of course, Inko says and sets aside her pen to give him her full attention. Do you think I could be a hero? He asks quietly. He still remembers the anxious time before his quirk came in, and they thought he would be quirkless. The way she had apologized to him when he asked this very same question, like she was apologizing for something that wasn't her fault. That he'd been born mute, and at the time, that he'd been born quirkless, and she was to blame. He hadn't been quirkless, but it still stuck because he's seen the way quirkless people are treated. He had been there for a few years, and it's not nice. He also experienced what it's like to be called villain and degraded because of his quirk. Izuku silently wonders if anyone is ever truly perfect in society's eyes. And of those few that are seen as perfect, how much expectation is put on their shoulders because of their perfect quirk. He's seen it with Kachan. Despite what Hitoshi says, he knows Kachan can be good. He remembers the time when they were younger, before their quirks, and running around with his best friend in the world. And then Kachan's quirk came in, and Izuku's didn't. And suddenly, Kachan was perfect for heroics. How he could do no wrong, and everyone treated him like he was just better because he could make explosions from his hands. No one ever told him no. He never got in trouble, and anything that might have left a mark on his record got swept aside. He watched how his once nice friend changed into a bully he is today. How can someone change if no one gives them room to grow? How can Kachan be better if everyone says he's perfect? Inko's eyes widen in shock, not having expected this line of questioning, and a sad look crosses her face. No doubt remembering the last time he asked her this question. She takes a slow breath before looking at him. I think my opinion doesn't matter, dear. If you want to be a hero, then I will support you, but, she says with a tremorous smile, I think you would be a kind hero. I would be proud to call you my son. She says, and Izuku feels tears prickling his eyes as he quickly blinks them away. Thank you, he whispers with a small grin. I want to try and get into UA and into the heroics course, he explained quickly, and Inko nods. Hitoshi's foster dads want to train physically for stuff, and Aizawa-san agreed to help us train and stuff, but he said only if I have your permission. So can I train with Hitoshi? Izuku asks, heart beating quickly in his chest. Inko frowns, but nods. I don't see why not, but I would like to meet with them first. So I know them, and perhaps get occasional updates on what he's going to teach you, so I know you're not overdoing it. There's such a thing as too much training. Inko reminds him. Really? Thank you, Mom. I'll let him know, and we can figure out a day so you guys can meet. Izuku says, excitedly, rushing around the table to hug her as tight as he can. You're welcome, sweetie, Inko says with a fond laugh and hugs her back. Izuku presses a kiss to her temple, and then he rushes off to inform Hitoshi of the good news. Okay, so that last part hit a tone that I've always wondered. You know, I've always thought, and I see it portrayed sometimes in fan fictions, like in this one or in Deku. I think it's the Pro by Clouds, My Head in the Clouds, Not Coming Down. Or I guess technically speaking, Cheat Code as well, just a little bit. We don't really get to see it. At least I haven't seen it that well, but I feel like they're probably gonna touch upon it. Probably not, maybe not, who knows. But the whole, how can Bakugo know he's fully in the wrong if everybody around him is accepting said behavior? He's conditioned. He's basically conditioned to do said behavior. Obviously, at some degree, he is still viable for his fucking actions because, yeah, no, that's still bad, right? It doesn't matter if everybody around you is telling you it's good, but at the same time, you know, we can't expect him to be unchangeable and unredeemable if nobody has ever let him get redeemed and everybody around him said that was fine, that was perfect, that he could do no wrong, and swept it under the rug. Like, everybody basically conditioned him into believing that he is the best, he deserves everything he wants, and has no, right? Which, we see examples of this in real life. Spoiled kids grow up in life, and then life hits them hard, and they cannot handle a no. Because they have never been, like, they've never seen a no. They don't know what it's like. And sure, to a certain extent, they should start to learn and grow and whatever. And the lack of growing, even after being exposed, even after getting the whole room to grow and no longer being conditioned 24/7 by the people around you, the lack of growth there then really becomes a whole, yeah, no, it's you're the problem at this point. You can no longer fall behind the excuse of you were conditioned. Luckily for Bakugo, at least in the My Hero Academia universe, in the main canon universe, we see this happening, right? Obviously, Bakugo is conditioned to be, like, he's perfect. He has no. He is the best. Point, period. He can do no wrong, right? So he bullies Deku, right? And obviously, as he goes into UA, that behavior is no longer as acceptable, right? He starts to learn, and clearly he does learn, because spoiler alert for season 6, he apologizes, and we actually start seeing changes as early as season 3 and 4, right? Changes in Bakugo slightly because, yeah, he has been given the room to grow, and it's always something that I've found very interesting, because I know that conditioning could go hard. Like, it's really hard to uncondition yourself once you've been conditioned. I'm not saying it's impossible, it's just really fucking hard. Like, take people who've been in cults, like victims of cults, like they were either brought into the cult or worse yet, born into the cult, and that's all they've ever known, the cult. And, you know, obviously it's a struggle for them later down the road to integrate into regular life, which is an example here with Bakugo, right? The whole time he's been conditioned with that. So, I really like that line, that whole haven't given him room to grow, and that is so true, right? Which don't get it wrong. Give him a chance to prove everyone wrong that he can grow and change, but do not let that chance stay for long, right? 4 or 3 years goes by of like him no longer being in an environment that accepts that type of behavior, and he still doesn't change. Get out. Get out. Same in real life. If it's tricky, because sure, that person isn't fully responsible for the shit they're doing, but that does not mean that you need to tolerate their shit, you know? You don't. You really don't. If the person is, I don't know, like, for example, hitting, screaming, acting like a literal child, right? You don't have to deal with their bullshit just because, oh, well, they were conditioned to do that from a young age. They're spoiled. They've never been told no. Okay, yeah, that's the reason. You got the explanation as to why they do this. It's a solid reason. It's can be a kind of excuse, not fully, but it's not your responsibility to have them grow. It's never your responsibility for anybody to grow. It's only the only person you're responsible to make sure they grow and mature is yourself. Never let anybody tell you otherwise. That was a long rant. That was what, 5-6 minutes of ranting? I am so sorry. I'm passionate about that. But enough of that. I'll see you tomorrow for the next chapter. And as always, make sure to eat, sleep, drink water, take your meds. Have a wonderful day or night. Join our community Discord server, link is in the description. Subscribe to see more of my content. And thank you so much for watching.